said the Lions won a game. Man, we going all the way. Baby. We about to celebrate. Why?
And we are back, episode 48, Great Lakes State football, talking everything football in the great state of Michigan. And I am Vince.
And I'm the thuggish, ruggish bone. Oh, I'm Kory.
And I'm Brett.
I'm Tate.
And it's been a couple weeks, but we do have some football topics that we want to talk about. Last time we were on, we had Goose Poop. We talked a little bit of football with him as well as his playoff model. We'll be actually having him on in the next episode for our playoff preview. But in the meantime, we wanted to make sure that we caught back up with high school football as well as a few topics with college football and our beloved Detroit Lions, who are doing very well. We'll get to that soon here. But before we dive into anything, we have to thank our sponsor. Our show is brought to you by NeuroPeak Pro's Intel Belt. The NeuroPeak Pro's Intel Belt is a premier device that revolutionizes performance training through the proprietary precision breathing and heart rate variability training. Download the NeuroPeak Pro app to conduct training sessions and learn to breathe in a way that helps to maximize your performance in the game, at work, at home, and when it matters most. The Intel Belt uses Bluetooth technology to connect you to the NeuroPeak Pro app, where you will conduct precision breathing training sessions and monitor HRV in real time, gain insight into your breathing metrics and progress, learn how to adopt a successful breathing practice with video instruction from the NeuroPeak Pro team, unlock instructional content specific to your areas of interest, and learn to utilize precision breathing training in your everyday life to help you maximize your potential. Get 20% off your purchase of an Intel Belt with the code GLSFB. That is 20% off your purchase of an Intel Belt with our personalized code GLSFB. Thank you to NeuroPeak Pro and the Intel Belt. All right, gentlemen, I think we got some football to talk about here.
So, did you just commit to
Welcome
us
back,
having
everybody.
a
I missed you all.
episode next week?
2 weeks.
You said we'll have Goose Poop on next week for a playoff preview.
Oh, I mean, maybe I misspoke then. I think I meant 2 weeks for playoff preview after the selection show. That would be Wednesday night. Is that the 25th? Whatever that or Sunday night, excuse me. Whatever that Sunday night is after week 9, something like that.
The 22nd?
Whatever. Is that Sunday night?
I think so. Yeah.
We will be probably that Monday or Tuesday. We'll probably try to get on with Goose Poop, Cannon, and we'll have an episode out with our playoff preview at some time during that week before week 1, round 1 of the playoffs, where we discuss our picks for early state champion picks, just our predictions for who might take home the crown in Division 1 through 8, and probably some other things to look out for. So look out for that. That'll be in a couple weeks. In the meantime, let's talk about what's going on in MHSAA football with 2 weeks left before playoffs. We have a week 8 game in just a few days here. Recording this on a Tuesday night. By the time this comes up, there'll probably only be about 2 days until that game. And then obviously right after that, we got our week 9 games and the selection show. So gentlemen, anything that stands out to you guys? We kind of talked about this a few weeks ago when we were hitting about that halfway point. We were through week 4 and we were kind of talking about surprises, disappointments, or thoughts on the MHSAA football season in general. Is there anything now, a few weeks later, with just 2 games left, that sticks out to you, whether it's any surprise teams, disappointing teams, anything that is noteworthy at this point in the season?
I would say real quick, just to chime in, and I'll pass it off to the professionals, but I think Rockford has legitimate contention for D1 state championship.
I think they've definitely separated themselves with with their wins this season.
Like them and Belleville are neck and neck, in my opinion.
I wouldn't sleep on Davison or Saline, though.
I would say that I would kind of just going off what you said, Kory. I think this is the most dynamic offense that I've seen under Cummings. I think this is his, third or fourth year. Still hasn't lost an okay red game in the regular season. So yeah, they're firing all cylinders right now. I think you're right. They've got a really good shot of finally getting to Ford Field for the first time in close to 15 years.
You guys know who their OC is, right?
Holy crap.
Vanderland
from
Vanderlaan
Ferris State.
from Ferris State.
From Ferris State. Yep.
Back-to-back Harlan Hill Trophy winner.
But that dude, I mean, I played against him. Vince played against him. he was like a god. And if his coaching ability is anything like how he played, dog.
I mean, they're doing quite well. They're having a heck of a season. I think their win this last week, East Kentwood, who is in playoff contention, they beat him 55-0. They beat Caledonia 42-16. That one I would be careful with, that win over Caledonia, because they crushed Caledonia last year in the regular season, just pretty similar, and then got upset in the playoffs. Now this year they don't have to play them in the playoffs, but them crushing Mona Shores and Muskegon weeks 1 and 2 were also obviously standout wins. So the Granville game, which we'll get to that in just a second here, that's one of our games of the week, will definitely be the one to kind of decide who is for real and who isn't between Granville and Rockford. One team that I would mention here that Tate brought up after week 4 is Hudsonville has kind of turned into a bit of a disappointment. They just had a massive upset pulled off over them by Holland West Ottawa. Holland West Ottawa came into the game 1-5, and Hudsonville, who was 4-2, got beat 27-7 by West Ottawa. They should beat Jenison this week, but after starting 4-0, they're probably going to finish 5-4 because they have to end with Rockford. So that one obviously a bit of a disappointment after they had a strong start. Another one that I think a few of you guys brought up last time was Brother Rice. Brother Rice has still not won a game. They are 0-7. So that's kind of a shocker, in Michigan State high school football this year around the state of Michigan. Now they haven't had an easy schedule. Obviously this new CHSL league with the Toledo schools, makes it even tougher, playing some of those Ohio schools. But they've just been getting rolled by people. Their closest game was a 9-point loss week 2. They've been getting blown out left and right. It's not good for Brother Rice.
So go ahead. Sorry.
Go for it.
I was thinking in my head, man, it seems like there's a lot of undefeated teams still through 7 weeks. So I just went back through, and courtesy of Goose Poop, I was checking out his Survivor Island. And through week 7 last year, there was 35 undefeated teams in the state, and there's 46 undefeated teams in the state. So
that is cool. That's
pretty significant. That's 11 teams. And how many teams are in high school? 256 or something?
No, in all of 11-man football?
Yeah.
There's almost 500. It's like 400 something.
Oh, okay. I guess
I think you were thinking the number of teams that make the playoffs.
That could be. But I was thinking that, man, there's a lot of undefeated teams, so that's kind of a surprise.
Yeah, Division 1 alone has 7 undefeated teams still.
And a lot of the good matchups are like the last week.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Saline plays Lake Orion, who's undefeated, which will obviously be an interesting one. Rockford and Granville playing here. Granville only has 1 loss. Sorry, Kory, go ahead.
I was just going to say our MHSAA resource was saying that they may do some restructuring next year with the divisions. They pitched it to the board about making it so something about teams that have less than 200 kids can now play up into 11-man if they have enough kids versus having to play 8-man. So there's going to be a little restructuring in 8-man and in D8 next year. It looks like it's not official yet, but something to think about.
I wonder if that then would push the top end of divisions up a bit if teams get added to D8. Yep. That'll be interesting.
I think it almost should be done the other way, where you only have I don't know. It's not fair the way D1 is structured.
D1 is such a massive discrepancy.
Yeah.
The biggest school has almost 3,000 kids, and the smallest school has 1,500. Yeah, it's almost double the size.
Currently, you're forced to play D8 if you don't have X amount of students, and they want to give teams the opportunity to play up if they want to. So,
gotcha.
Something to
I think the number one problem is there's too many divisions too, as part of it.
Yeah.
Just 8 divisions is the problem is they went to 8 divisions when you had 600 plus 11-man football programs in 1999. And then, 15 years later or whatever it was, when 8-man was developed, now you have 100 teams playing 8-man football and you're down to less than 500 11-man teams. So they need to eliminate a couple of these divisions. I really think there should only be 6 or 7 11-man divisions, not 8. It's too many. That would kind of help a little bit.
that same source also told me that they are pitching more divisions for other sports. So how I believe
really?
football and basketball are the only ones that have, or does basketball not have 8 divisions? Does basketball have 8?
Football is the only one that
Four.
not 4. Every other
Yes.
sport is 4.
Other sports are looking to go to 6, but now the issue comes like in, we'll say, girls softball. Do they really need 6, or like, you know, what I mean, the obscure sports? But yeah, basketball would go to 6.
Yeah, that gets tricky too if basketball and private schools, if they're going to allow 6 divisions, then any private school needs to play up at least 1 division, in my opinion, because then you get into, oh, well, this school has 400 kids, but they have the best kids from the area. They're going to play against a small town school that's got 400 kids and just smoke them every time. So that doesn't really make any sense either.
They also discussed sorry, I have all this stuff that is just popping up in my head now. They also discussed the private school, public school discrepancy. And the argument is that only like 25% of state championships over the last 15 years have been won by private schools. So they're not going to change that private school, public school, like into 2 separate umbrellas. They're going to keep it all under one.
Well, that's just picking a stat out of the sky that works for them. Well, obviously there's probably less than 25% of schools in the state are private schools. So talk about skewing your statistics to fit your agenda.
Yeah. Anyway, getting back to teams that are what about Muskegon? They were supposed to be state title contender.
They won 5 in a row.
They are 5-2 now, so they
beat Zeeland West, who's undefeated last week.
True. They beat
Zeeland East, who is 5-2. I mean,
that's kind of been the trend for the Big Reds the last couple of years. I feel like they kind of have a wake up call the first, because they schedule tough. But then
Rockford and De La Salle are pretty tough games to start the year off with.
Yeah. Quick shout out though to small school from the area, Belding. They just locked up their 2nd consecutive OK Silver title. It's the smallest of the divisions in the OK, but seems to be that they're kind of back into the form of what they were when Rockford's head coach was on the sidelines in Belding back in the day. They might be a sneaky team in D5. It might give either West Catholic or Grand Rapids Catholic Central a tougher game than most would expect.
Munger was from Belding?
No, not Munger. Cummings, their head coach now.
Cummings was from Belding? Okay.
Yeah.
How's Newaygo doing with Munger? Has anybody looked?
Not sure.
Do either of you guys got any input, Tate or Brett, on that whole fiasco with the silver and Greenville and all that chaos?
Yeah.
Before we get to that, though, I want to mention one more kind of surprise, or at least a shout out another team. This is a small school out of the Lansing area. They're going to end up being Division 7. Perry, the Perry Ramblers. They are set to qualify for their first ever playoff in school history. So outside of the COVID season in 2020, where everyone made it, Perry has never qualified for the playoffs. They are 5-2 right now. And in the playoff rankings online, they are listed at number 15. So their playoff points are really solid. So even if they lose their last 2 games at 5-4, they should be in. Their last 2 games are against Lakewood, who has not won a game,
so bad.
And Bath, who is 4-3. So they definitely should probably beat Lakewood. The Bath one might be more of a toss-up, but yeah, they're having a heck of a year. So they should at least finish 6-3, and they'll qualify for their first playoffs in school history. And actually, six wins would be, if they win 6 games, that would be their most wins in a season in 30 years. So that's pretty cool. Small school from the Lansing area.
They should at least win 6 games. I saw Lakewood play Portland. Lakewood is the smallest high school football team I've ever seen touch a field. They look like a bunch of freshmen.
What's crazy is Lakewood not that long ago won 10 games and was in a regional championship back in 2016. So they've had some recent success, but yeah, very quickly a program can fall apart like that. Lakewood was one of those 6-3 schools last year that didn't make the playoffs. They went 6-3 last year and didn't qualify with their playoff points, sadly. So anyway, sorry, Kory, if you guys want to chat about the OK stuff, we can get into that.
I don't know much about it, so I was going to turn it over to Tate and Brett if they had read that article and want to elaborate.
Yeah, I'd be interested to hear from more administration other than just Sparta. So far, I think it was someone in either the athletic or the school administration from Sparta kind of shed some light on the situation. Kind of just complaining about the overall restructure of the league that happens every 4 years and how schools have to travel out to the lake shore quite a bit. But I mean, when you're going to have a conference that has 40 plus schools in it, you're going to have to deal with some of that. And I think they do a pretty good job of not only structuring the league so that schools from close-ish proximities play each other, but they also do a good job of evaluating the talent level and also the enrollment of the schools in each division and try to make it the most competitive. So I really don't think that those schools that want to leave, I think it's Sparta, Coopersville, Kenowa Hills, Allendale, amongst others, I really don't think they have too much ground to stand on. I think it'll be a big mistake if they eventually do secede the OK conference. But I mean, we've heard this before, so we'll see if it actually happens.
Interesting. Yeah, it's always interesting to see kind of how some of those conferences, especially like a league like the Ottawa Kent that has so many divisions and so many schools that it covers. And obviously, you're probably not going to make everyone happy, but it'll be curious to see how some of that plays out. One other thing I want to mention here while we're talking about like surprises or expectations, kind of where things are at the end of the season here before we get into the playoffs. We got to mention Division 8. I don't know if you guys have been kind of keeping track. Brett was already mentioning all the undefeated teams. I had already mentioned that 7 undefeated teams are in Division 1. I don't know if you guys have been paying attention to D8. There are currently 4, 6, 8, 10 undefeated teams in Division 8. 10. So outside of Division 1, D8 might be probably one of the most competitive divisions to watch come playoff time. You got Ottawa Lake Whiteford, Hudson, Beale City, Ithaca, all undefeated. New Lothrop with 1 loss. Ubley's undefeated. Fowler with 1 loss. Iron Mountain undefeated. White Pigeon undefeated. Harbor Beach has had a lot of success with 1 loss. I mean, it's going to be a pretty fun playoff series. The few rounds of playoffs there to watch with Division 8. I think that'll be a fun one to kind of keep track of.
So I've been very quiet over here. I've been doing some digging.
Okay, let's hear what you got, Beej.
There are nine teams that, if you just eliminate the COVID year, there's 9 teams in MHSAA right now that have never made the playoffs. Perry being one of them. So there's 8 more. I'm going to see if you guys can name collectively 5 of the 9.
Can you give us
divisions? You're saying there's 9 teams who have never made the playoffs in MHSAA history?
Yes, outside of the COVID year. So I will give you a hint.
How are you able to pull that up? Is that literally a stat on the MHSAA website?
I can tell you how I did it here in a minute.
Okay. I think I have an idea maybe of how you did it because I think I've looked at it before. But okay, so you have 9 teams in front of you that have never made the MHSAA playoffs. One of them is Perry. You were trying to guess some of the others.
I'll go geographically. I'll kind of pick around the state, and you can name a team.
Okay.
So one of them, we'll say Lansing area.
It said Eastern, but I just looked it up. They have
Eastern made the playoffs a couple times. There's one from the Lansing area.
They are 0-1 all time in the postseason. Eastern is. So that's the only time they've made the playoffs is COVID year.
No,
Lansing Eastern? No, Lansing Eastern made the playoffs in the 90s.
Yeah, 97.
But they had a baller. They had a dude who was a baller at running back because Eddie Sade Eddie Sade was on that team. He always talks about
Rockford 49-7.
Yeah, Rockford beat them. They were like 2,000 kids in the school at that time. Eastern was huge. One of the ones
you know what? That's their only loss. They must not have made the playoffs in 2020 because they didn't have a season.
No, they canceled football that year.
Yeah. So I guess they've only made it one time. So this stat might be skewed.
I was going to say Loy Norix, but they actually have made it once.
I'll just name all the teams that are on here that have one loss in the playoffs. I'd have to do a little bit more digging to see if it was a COVID year or not. But Perry, Hart, the Hart Pirates.
I believe they're undefeated, right? This year, last year,
Goose Poop did they're 6-1 right now.
Okay.
So Hart has never made the playoffs, and they're poised to make the playoffs. Correct.
Yep. Yeah. Jackson Northwest. That one was surprising.
Oh, that is surprising. I thought they were good back in the day.
Otisville, Lakeville Falcons, which is north, like Metro Detroit. Wyoming.
Oh.
Ann Arbor Skyline, who's a younger school. They've
only been around like 10 years
games.
or so. Yeah.
Yeah. So Wyoming, you that's tough because what they combined route.
Yeah,
Wyoming
they're a newer
Rodgers
school too.
Park,
they've played 101 games.
Okay, so that's a pretty good sample size, though, at least.
Yeah. Then the other two, the sample size isn't great. They're smaller schools. Taylor Griffins, they've only played 40 games, and they are 0-7 this year. And then the other team is Dearborn Advanced Technology.
They're new too, I think.
The crazy thing is Jackson Northwest has a shot at making the playoffs. So you could have three teams. Perry has a chance of getting in. Hart looks like they're going to finally end their playoff drought. Jackson Northwest is only 5 spots out of the playoffs right now. They're 4-3. Unfortunately, they still have to play Hastings, who's really good, but they could beat Marshall. Maybe they slip in at 5-4. Yeah, that'd be pretty cool to see 3 teams make the playoffs. At least those 3 who have never made it before.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, that would be really neat.
Yeah, Perry, Hart, Jackson Northwest. See what happens. But yeah, for sure, Perry and Hart will be in. So that's really cool to see that for sure 2 teams' playoff droughts will end. That's pretty special to see that. That's one thing that I think is cool about the state of Michigan, that the playoffs are earned in football. That in all the other sports, everyone gets in for all the other sports. So I always appreciate that about the sport of football. I like the idea that playoffs gets earned. So cool.
Shout out to Hart Pizza, my favorite pizzeria in the state.
Ooh, is that the recommendation of the week?
It's not. I'll let Vince.
That's a bonus. I have a bonus recommendation. Oh, I was going to recommend something.
So here we go. You can do one more fun fact while I have this up in Excel. Who are the top 5 teams in the state for playoff appearances? That is the sum of playoff games total. With 114. Who's number 1?
Detroit Catholic Central.
Yep. Number 2.
Jackson Lumen Christi.
Lumen Christi's number 3.
Dang it.
2
was Tate right? Harrison?
Nope.
Rockford?
Nope.
Muskegon?
Nope.
Fuck.
Hey, that was not
Brother Rice.
Oh, there's 6.
Dang.
Up North School.
Traverse City St. Francis.
Yep, they're 2.
Okay. Gotcha.
Number 4 is a private school west side of the state on the lakeshore.
On the lakeshore.
Yep.
Lakeshore.
Muskegon Catholic Central. Yep. It took me a second. Muskegon Catholic Central.
And then number 5 is a team near Mount Pleasant whose jerseys look like the Cowboys, and they're always in the state finals.
Oh, can't think of the name. I know exactly what you're referencing, though.
Beale City Aggies.
That's right.
Oh, gotcha. Wow, interesting. Nice little fun fact there.
Yeah.
All right. Do we want to get into? It sounds like we're wrapping that up. We want to move on to games of the week then.
Yeah, let's do it. Want me to share my screen again?
Share that screen.
You may, but I need to check this little box here that allows you to do that. Go ahead. All you, Brett. Show us what you got, brother.
All right. So the first game we have, top game of the week, is 6-1 Byron Center versus 6-1 East Grand Rapids. Byron Center coming off of a loss recently. And East Grand Rapids losing to Forest Hill Central a few weeks ago, a team that Byron Center had beaten like week 5, I believe. Vince, why don't you start us out? What do you got in this?
Whoa.
I can start.
I started out last time.
I'll start. I think East GR takes it. I think Coach Shattuck has come into Grand Rapids and just flipped that program upside down, and I love it.
Vince.
I am pretty surprised by the I'm wondering if there's going to end up being a three-way tie for the OK White, considering Byron Center beat Forest Hills Central, but lost to Lowell. And then East Grand Rapids beat Lowell, but lost to Forest Hills Central. So you got kind of like a three-way thing going here. I'll be curious to see how it plays out, or four-way tie. But I think I'm also going to go with EGR here. I think Shattuck has got them playing some good football. I think that Forest Hills Central blip 2 weeks ago was just that. It was just a blip.
Yeah.
They got beat by a good team. I think they beat Byron Center. I think it's a heck of a game, though.
Man, this is tough. I'm gonna go Byron Center.
Ooh.
This OK White has kind of confused me all year. My gut says EGR, but my head says the Bulldogs.
I think I'm going to go with the Bulldogs too. This is a home game for the Bulldogs. I think it might be senior day. Don't quote me on that. I would have to check that. But I think Byron Center has a more impressive body of work, beating the team that East Grand Rapids lost to. They did have a little hang up against Lowell, but Lowell's a tough team. So I'm going to go with the Bulldogs.
I don't know. EGR being the defending state champs in South Christian was pretty impressive earlier this year. That was South Christian's only loss, too.
Well,
time will tell.
We'll see.
Looks that way.
Kory, we got Gaylord 7-0, who hosts a 3-star on their team. Northern Michigan School 3-star on their team. Brady Pretzlaff, he's a linebacker committed to Minnesota, playing Jackson Lumen Christie, also 7-0. Undefeated versus undefeated. Who do you got?
Big Gaylord Fokker fan.
I was thinking that movie too. It's just a game, Fokker.
I think you got to go with Lumen Christie based on what Vince told us, based on what my brother had told me after they scrimmaged them. They're just a juggernaut. I mean, for Christ's sake, what high school team plays with knee braces on? So I'm going to go with Lumen Christie.
Yeah, I have no reason to pick against Lumen Christie at this point. Gaylord having one of their best seasons in a long time. They're also Division III, so they are 4 divisions bigger. But that's no reason for Lumen Christie to shy away. I mean, they're a hell of a team and hell of a program. I'm going with Lumen Christie.
I'm gonna ride the JLC train. What's the difference between the distance between these schools? It's quite a trip, isn't it?
It's got to be at least a 2.5 hour drive, 3 hour drive.
I bet more than 3 hours.
160 miles.
We can Google that. Well, you guys make your pick. I'll look it up.
I'm going to go Jackson Lumen Christie as well. I would like to see Gaylord win this game. I think it'd be great to have an up north school beat a team, private school team from down state. But Jackson Lumen Christie hasn't had any issues with bigger schools. They beat Detroit Jesuit earlier this year, 1,300 kids. So 900 kids at Gaylord won't be an issue for the JLC.
It is 211 miles, 2 hours and 56 minutes, straight up 127.
Wow, that's a lot further than I thought. Interesante.
Muy interesante.
All right, the next one we got Battle in the OK Red. They got 6-1 Granville.
Ooh-wee.
Coming off a big win over Caledonia last week, and they are playing 7-0 Rockford. This game is at Granville.
This game is going to be super interesting because Granville runs one of those offenses that can chew a clock up pretty good. But I just think Rockford has too much power. They've got 100 kids in their varsity squad. They got depth for days. And they're just curb stopping people, let's be honest. This hasn't really even been a competitive season for them. I take Rockford. I would even take them by 14.
I got Rockford as well. The Their defense is playing phenomenal. Their most points they've given all year was to Caledonia. It was 16. I mean, that's absurd. 63 points in 7 games. They're giving up less than 10 points a game. So I mean, no reason to pick against Rockford at this point. Granville, I think, will definitely score them. I could see Granville be the first team to score more than 20 points on Rockford this year, with how tough their offense is and Tank Terry. But I'm going with Rockford.
Yeah, you mentioned that, Granville has the ability to control the clock, but they really haven't shown that they want to. It's a team that scores fast, albeit in that wing T. I think they're going to have to control the clock against Rockford for it to even be close, but I just don't think that that's really in their identity. They're a team that wants to score a lot. And right now, I don't think there's anyone in the state outside of Belleville that can really go toe for toe for Rockford's offense. I don't really think this game's going to be close. I got Rockford.
I'm going to follow suit on the Rockford train. Pretty much all the facts that I am riding on have already been mentioned. They're a train that's moving fast, and I don't see anyone stopping them until the playoffs. Probably the regionals of the playoffs at minimum.
I mean, there's nothing more terrifying than a good Rockford team. We've all played against a good Rockford team. Even Vince and I have coached against a good Rockford team.
Yeah.
It is like the most intimidating thing ever when you just see 100 people walk onto the field and they're like karate chopping the goalpost.
At halftime, yeah, geez. And at halftime, there's so many players that they're warming up on the sidelines because they don't all fit on the field.
Yeah.
Absurd.
It's intimidating.
Next one, we have Walled Lake Western 7-0 versus Mason 7-0. Another battle of the unbeatens. Kory.
This one's tough. So Walled Lake has scored a lot of points, but their defense isn't as good as Mason's. But they've scored more points than Mason has this season. And their quality of opponent, you could argue, is a little bit better than Mason's quality of opponent. You could argue it. They haven't played the GL Comets, but they play some people. This one's tough. I'm gonna just be loyal to Lansing, Michigan, Mason, and Eddie Sade. Shout out to Eddie Sade.
Both teams have played some bad teams. I would argue that Mason's played a couple better teams than Walled Lake Western has. I think DeWitt is a really solid team and program, and that was a really shocking victory. Mason went into DeWitt week 2 and had a 42-7 lead in the third quarter and a running clock on DeWitt at DeWitt. DeWitt, I don't know if they've had a team in the regular season do that to them at maybe ever, or at least in a very long time, especially a Lansing area school under Rob Zimmerman. That to me was really an eye-opening one. Hazlitt has a couple of twin brothers who are ball players, or not twin brothers, they're brothers. And they handled them by 2 scores. The last couple games, this is the biggest problem for Mason. Mason's played 2 bad teams in a row. Eastern is obviously really, really bad. St. John's is pretty average. I think they're 3-4 right now. So that's going to be tough for them to get back up for Walled Lake Western after playing those 2 games, whereas Walled Lake Western just beat Milford, who is a little bit better of an opponent. I think I am going to go with Mason. I really do think it's Mason's year. The one thing that's going to be tough here, though, is Mason and Walled Lake Western. There's a lot of projections that they may not only be in the same region, but maybe even in the same district, but definitely the same region. There's some projections showing that, so they may have to play each other again in the playoffs in an early round.
I'm going to take a kind of a macro outlook on this one, just from a program standpoint. If you look at the last couple of years, Mason's made it to the semis, and Walled Lake has lost in the districts, I think like the past 3 years in a row. So I think Mason has been building up to this point. I think this game is kind of a measuring stick for them to show that, that number 1 ranking in D3 is legit and that they should be one of the teams that's talked about for winning the state title. So I'm going to take Mason in this one.
Man, I really want to pick Walled Lake Western to change it up, but I think Mason just has a great body of work this year, including the last few years. We had their coach on the podcast. He seems to really invest in the players, and they have a great culture within their program. I'm not as close with anyone that's went to Walled Lake Western. Obviously, they had a good year last year, kind of riding the tail feathers of their stud running back. Was at Minnesota now, but I'm going to take Mason in this game. I really think that this is a game that Mason can win. Kind of like Tate said, this is one that this is their year in their minds. And this game is going to be a road game, so Mason's going to be fired up to go play. So I'm going to pick the Bulldogs. Another Bulldog.
Go Dogs.
Go Dogs.
Good dogs.
Dogs
All right,
up.
The last one, we're changing it up. We're going Division 8. We got the Norway Knights, who are
No, this is 8-man. 8-man.
8-man, I meant. And they are playing the Powers North Central Jets, who are 6-1. Norway's enrollment, for those that are interested, 175 kids.
This is
North
crazy
Central,
factor here.
95 kids.
That's crazy. 95.
95.
kids. Oh,
But it's a
man.
battle for the Yoop. Corey, who you got?
Oh, so they've both played Ontonagon, and Norway actually fared better versus Ontonagon than North Central. Oh God. Norway does have 2 losses, but
Don't act like you know what you're talking about at all. None of us follow 8-man.
oh, no. I'm just reading the facts, baby. I'm just reading the facts. I'm gonna go with Norway. Upset alert.
I'm going with Powers North Central. They've blown them out the last 2 years in a row. Powers North Central's got something going pretty special since they've joined 8-man football. I got Powers North Central.
Powers North Central had a 41-game winning streak before their loss on September 22nd of this year to Lake Linden Hubble. They're going to bounce back and keep rolling to another state championship. PNC.
I'm taking the Jets too. Their loss to Lake Linden Hubble, I think, is a little bit of an anomaly. A team they beat 50-0 last year. They probably, if I had to guess, had a couple injuries in that game, a couple of key injuries. I got Powers North Central. They're a power not only in football but also on the basketball court too, being in the state finals a few times in the last 5 or 6 years.
A cold could knock out all of Powers North Central's entire school. 95 kids. That's insane.
All right, well, week 8, there you have it, picks. We got one last week of regular season before our playoff picks start. We'll get Goose Poop's picks offline. Vince in last place right now at 23-12.
Oof. Hey, it's only two games off from, or one game off.
You're
2 games off the lead. 2 games off the lead. Only 1 game
2
back
games
from
back.
second place.
But
It's pretty close. It's tight.
Not gonna be a lot of movement this week. A lot of
There could be. Kory picked off on one of them, and then we had a split choice on the other.
We'll see about that.
Kory's on fire.
You picked that Norway upset. I'll be very shocked.
I'll be very shocked. So
You're just playing with fire with that one.
Yep.
All right. So I think with that, we can move into college ball here.
Yes, sir.
All right. The first thing that we want to mention, we haven't talked really a lot about small college football recently. We're going to kind of skip over the MAC a little bit in Division I football. At this point, CMU, Eastern Michigan, both 3-3, Western 2-4. Everyone knows how University of Michigan's dominating right now, and Michigan State's a dumpster fire. So we're going to kind of skip over Division I football, but we do want to mention some of the small college teams here. Some of the noteworthy things to mention with them. First, we don't give a lot of love to NAIA football here in the state of Michigan. We got 4 NAIA schools. We have Siena Heights, Lawrence Tech, Madonna, and Concordia Ann Arbor. Concordia Ann Arbor is the team that we want to highlight here really quick. Concordia Ann Arbor is off to a really nice start. I think the one thing that we really want to mention, though, is the fact that they are ranked 10th nationally right now in the NAIA polls. So that's really cool to see. They are 5-0. Unfortunately, the other 3 Michigan schools not doing so hot. Lawrence Tech is 1-5, Madonna's 0-6, and Siena Heights is 2-3. So those 3 are not doing so well. But Concordia Ann Arbor who's had a program now since 2010. Their first season way back in 2010 was mostly scrimmages and kind of some unofficial games with D3 schools in the state of Michigan. And then they had a few rough seasons kind of getting going in 2011, 2012. And they have had a couple 9-10 win seasons and some playoff appearances in recent years. They've actually won a playoff game or two in the last few years. So it'll be cool to see, if they can make a run here in the NAIA playoffs this year, represent the state of Michigan. Their baseball team, I believe, actually won the NAIA national championship. I think it was last year or the year before. So Concordia Ann Arbor has definitely had a lot of success in NAIA sports recently. So pretty cool to see that their football program is getting some love and some success here. What really brought them to our attention, in addition to their national ranking, top 10 ranking, was the fact that they took down Wayne State. So we pay a lot of attention to the GLIAC. So the GLIAC is kind of our favorite conference, small college conference, in addition to the MIAA. So they were at Wayne State and took them down 24-23. I actually posed this question on Twitter, and I got a couple people, comment on it. I said, huge win for Concordia over Wayne State. Does this show how good Concordia is? Or is this just showing that the bottom of the GLIAC it's not a top to bottom conference anymore? And I think a couple comments were like, no, Concordia is just that good. And I think there is some truth to that. I think Concordia is probably a pretty legit NAIA program. I'll be curious to see, some of the final scores in the GLIAC here coming up. Wayne State obviously is not having a very good year. They've been crushed a couple times during this season, but I think there's a little bit of truth to both. I think that Wayne State and the bottom of the GLIAC really aren't what it used to be. I mean, let's just be honest here. For a long time, the GLIAC top to bottom. I remember my second year at Hillsdale back in 2012. Northern Michigan was in last place in the North Division and they upset Grand Valley back in 2012. The first place team got upset by the last place team in the North Division. I mean, at that time, there was 8 teams in the North Division. There was 8 teams in the South Division. There was 16, I believe it was, GLIAC schools. Unfortunately, the GLIAC is now down to 7 total schools. And it's very top heavy, in my opinion. You have Ferris and Grand Valley, who just dominate. And obviously are top 5 national ranking every year. I think you got Saginaw Valley and Davenport in kind of a middle tier. Davenport is nationally ranked right now, I think like 15.
And last year.
Yeah, they were nationally ranked a lot last year. Saginaw Valley jumped into the national rankings at stretches last year. So I think you got Saginaw Valley and Davenport in the middle tier. And then at the bottom, you have Northern and Wayne State, and Tech kind of drifts between the middle and the bottom tier. Tech will have some good wins and some good seasons, and then some bad and average. They kind of drift in between. So I do think that just unfortunately the GLIAC is just not, when you only have 7 teams, when you used to have 14 to 16, it's just not what it is anymore. But Concordia, again, don't want to take anything away from Concordia. I think that they are showing that they are a heck of a program. So you guys want to add anything else with that? Otherwise, I just want to mention MIAA football here next.
It was go ahead, Brett, if you have anything I can chime in.
I just had a stupid comment. So you're saying it's a good year to have a college in Ann Arbor? Is that what you're saying?
I guess so.
All right.
But it's just impressive that Concordia, they beat Wayne State. Wayne State had a lot of penalties. They had 9 for 70 yards. So, they gave them some yards. But if you look at the statistical breakdown, Concordia just flat out beat them. And there has to be a talent discrepancy there between the recruit Concordia is getting and the recruit that they're getting at Wayne State. I wanted to get your guys' opinion on this. So Tyrone Wheatley being a football guy, he's been very productive. He's been very productive at every level, college, pro, coaching. Can you imagine his post-game speech to his players after they lost to an NAIA?
Oh yeah, I forgot
NAIA
that. Yeah.
School.
Oh boy.
He was probably like, y'all mother. He probably ripped them. It was probably like the skits you see on Twitter with the cornerback coach. What's that guy's name who does the skits where he talks about watching film with the guys? It had to have been terrible.
Oh, Coach. Yeah, geez, what's that guy's name? I love his videos. Yeah, I can't think of his name right now.
I mean, that's
No,
just a
I know what
bad
you're talking
loss. You can't lose that game from a D2 to NAIA school.
Yeah, it's
Can't
not
lose
good. It's not a good look. It's not a good look.
No. So
Next small college football here from the state of Michigan, we want to mention Alma and Hope are playing Saturday. Why is that significant? Because that game is likely going to determine the MIAA champion. Last year, it came down to the final game of the season, Alma and Albion, who we had on. You can check out those interviews. We had on Coach Dustin Buer and Jason Couch, the head coaches at Albion and Alma at the time, respectively. We had them on last year, back-to-back weeks, and interviewed them. That was a lot of fun. Coach Buer obviously now is at Northwood. Great guy, doing a good job at Northwood so far in his first season there. And then Coach Couch, another great dude who is over at Alma. And man, he has built Alma into something else. Alma, who for a while, when we were all in high school, Alma was kind of the bottom of barrel of the MIAA, kind of right along there with Olivet. At the time, they both really struggled. Even Kalamazoo was really having better seasons than those two programs were. Obviously, we've talked on the podcast over the last couple of years here that the MIAA from top to bottom has proven that they are a much stronger conference overall. I'd make the argument that if you wanted to compare in-state conferences, that the MIAA is a better top to bottom conference than the GLIAC at this point in terms of in their respective NCAA divisions, which I think is a pretty interesting conversation in itself. But Hope and Alma doing very well on the season. They are Alma's 5-0. Hope is 5-1. Hope's only loss was the first game of the year down at Aurora, Illinois. And Aurora, Illinois is undefeated and nationally ranked. Currently, Aurora is ranked number 12 in the nation, so that obviously is not a bad loss for Hope. Unfortunately, with how fickle it is trying to make the playoffs in Division III, if Hope does not win this game at 8-2, they probably will not make the playoffs.
I was going to ask, does Hope make the playoffs if they lose?
I think if Hope wins, I think if Hope wins, Alma could make the playoffs at 9-1, possibly. I don't know if you guys remember last year, we were shocked because Alma and Albion were both 9-0 going into that week 10 game or week 11 game because they have a bye. And that 10th game, I was shocked Albion didn't get in an at-large bid. In the NCAA Division III, every conference's champion gets into the playoffs, and then there are like 8 to 10 at-large bids. And unfortunately, Albion did not get one of those bids last year at 9-1, which just shows you the lack of respect nationally for the MIAA, which it's warranted. The MIAA traditionally has not, outside of Trine, has not really made any playoff runs since Albion's national. Until last year, Alma did finally change the tide on that and won a playoff game. They were the only team since Albion won the national championship in 1995. They're the only team other than Trine to win a playoff game out of the MIAA. So Trine has won a couple, but all the Michigan schools lose every year, unfortunately. So I'm hoping that that we could see Alma make an even bigger run this year. I don't know about you guys, but at this point, I'm picking Alma. I'm hoping Hope. Makes it a heck of a game. But when you look at the stats, this is just absurd. So Alma has played 5 games. Hope has played 6. Alma has scored 101 more points than Hope in one less game. Alma is averaging nearly 60 points a game. They've scored 298 points in 5 games. That's just shy of 60 points a game. Unbelievable. And they've only given up 79. An unbelievable start to the year.
How many teams make the playoffs in D3?
2, right?
32? I think it's 32.
Yeah, 30 something.
I think it's 32 because then you got to win 5 games to win it all.
Wow.
But there's a ton of D3 teams.
There's a lot of D3 conferences. Yeah, there's like 300. There's like 300 and something Division III football schools. And you have like 27 or it might be like 26 or 27 conferences. So what ends up happening is you get only a handful of at-large bids. And usually those at-large bids go to the Wisconsin Conference. Typically Mount Union's Ohio Conference might get an extra team in. The Texas Conference, that Mary Hardin Baylor comes out of, usually there's a chance they might get an at-large bid. MIAA usually doesn't get the at-large bid, unfortunately. So the winner of this game, I assume, will be the conference champs and make the playoffs. Hope already beat Albion, so I assume Alma likely going to beat Albion as well. Although don't sleep on Olivet. Olivet is 3-2 and 1-0 in the conference right now.
But it'll get real hairy if Alma beats Hope and then Albion upsets Alma. Then things get real weird.
I don't know how that works. If it goes then by overall record.
Points scored, Alma.
If it's points scored, Alma. But I wonder overall record if that would come into play. Because Alma didn't lose a non-conference game.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Kory, do you know Zach Ripema?
Riepma?
Yeah.
Riepma.
Yep.
He's the offensive coordinator at Alma.
Yeah, so he was actually on the coaching staff at Northwood when I played, but he was – I don't remember what he coached. He went to Alma.
Coach and then got promoted to offensive coordinator in 2016.
Yeah, he went to Alma. He was like an Alma legend.
Yeah,
his dad's a Northwood legend.
His dad is Coach Riepma is the best coach I've ever played for, period.
Best coach ever at Northwood.
So the Alma staff has some cool coaches. I mean, I love interviewing Jason Couch. That was a great interview last year.
MIAA overall is got a lot of great coaches, coaching staff, a lot of quality players. I'm really happy to see how well our D3 conference has been doing top to bottom the last couple of years. So I'd like to continue to see, those teams continue to do well non-conference. I think it was last year every team was undefeated or 3-1 in non-conference play. It was something crazy like that. Out of the MIAA, there was something crazy. I think Kalamazoo was the only one who wasn't undefeated or something after non-conference play. But anyway, anything else you guys want to mention there in the MIAA, Alma, Hope, etc.? Otherwise, we can get into D2 here real quick before we talk about the Lions.
Got the Anchor Bone Classic in D2.
Whoa. Yeah, we got the Anchor Bone Classic.
Anchor Bone Classic. So we have Grand Valley and Ferris State. Probably one of the outside of the Michigan State game, which obviously not as exciting this year and last year, probably the next biggest college football rivalry game here in the state of Michigan, I would argue.
Easily. Yeah, easily.
Grand Valley and Ferris has been over the last 10 years must-watch football. I mean, we already looked it up. I think it was Brett or Tate looked it up. The game is sold out. I think this game is sold out before. It's at Grand Valley.
Out 3 weeks ago, like multiple weeks ago, it sold out.
Yeah, how often do you see that in Division II football? Especially a stadium like Grand Valley that seats like what 10,000 people, 20,000, 30,000,
yeah, probably
30,000 people. I can't remember how many people that the stadium sits. 30,000 people. Anyway, Grand Valley, Ferris State. Grand Valley sitting at 4-1. Ferris State is also 4-1, I believe.
Yeah.
Yes. Ferris State's one loss is a very impressive loss. They went down to FCS, Division I AA Montana, who is ranked top 10 right now in Division I AA, and got beat down there 17-10. They were actually winning 10-3 in the second quarter. And they were winning even into the third quarter, second half. So very impressive, even though they lost 17-10, a very impressive showing nationally for them. Huge marquee game for them for recruiting to go on that game. The next game that they played 2 weeks later, they had a bye week after that Montana game. They turned around in their homecoming game and put up a school record 78 points on Northern Michigan on homecoming, beat them 78-3. So if anyone was questioning if they were feeling a little bit of a hangover after that loss, that went away pretty quickly. So quite a turnaround there for them. Struggled a little bit last week at home against Saginaw Valley. It was a one-score game in the third quarter. 24-17, and then Saginaw and then Ferris State ripped off 2 late touchdowns to win by 21. Grand Valley right now is also 4-1. They lost the opening game of the year on a last-second field goal out in Colorado to the national runner-up, who Ferris State beat in the national title last year, Colorado School of the Mines, who was ranked number 2 in the nation at the time. I think they're still ranked top 5. I'd have to go and look. Actually, I can tell you right now, they are still ranked number 2. They're 6-0. So that's Ferris or Grand Valley's only loss. Grand Valley has fallen to 7 since that loss. Grand Valley turned around and beat CSU Pueblo in double overtime, who is a top 25 team. They followed that up with a blowout win over another top 20 team in Assumption. They beat Saginaw Valley 55-14 and then won last week 65-7. So Grand Valley is also just crushing people right now. This game is at Grand Valley. Do we want to make predictions on this game?
Hell yes, we do. Kick it off, Brett.
Ferris State's going to win this game by 2 scores.
Oh, 2 scores.
I'm going to go out on a limb and say someone's mic echoing. Sorry.
It's you.
Go out.
Is it better now?
I think so.
It's Kory. No, Kory took his headphones off.
Oh, is that what it was? Oh, I heard Tate's voice echoing. Yeah, you're good now.
I'm going to go out on a limb and say Grand Valley's new coach, first game against Ferris, who finds a way to pull off a miracle and get it done. And they upset the Bulldogs.
Ooh.
Old strategy cut.
I am also going to take Grand Valley. I think at home it's going to be quite a hype game. I think Grand Valley, the problem they've had with Ferris is a couple times they beat them in the regular season and they can't take care of business in the playoffs. I think it happens again this year. I think Grand Valley, in a close game, pulls this one out over Ferris State, wins it at home, and then Ferris State beats them in the playoffs. That's my prediction.
I'm going to go Ferris State. I just don't think. I don't know. You don't play a team like Montana that tough and then
Montana?
Joe Montana. You drop a game to your rival. I think they normally play up for the big game. They've been in a couple national titles back to back. I think they bring it home.
What?
So are we going to pay for a Flow Sports subscriptions so we can watch this game?
I might pay for it if I'm not doing anything Saturday night.
Can more than one person use a Flow Sports subscription at once, and we could all throw in some money for the one-time viewing? I don't know.
I'd be down if it's possible.
The game is at 3 p.m. Lubbers Stadium.
I wish they would make it a night game.
I know.
That would be hype.
3 p.m. is going to be tough. Michigan's on at that time.
Yeah.
All right, boys and girls, do we want to move on to our Detroit Lions?
Get into it.
Kory, kick us off, our in-house fanatic.
Kick us off with your popular offline question about Dan Campbell.
Oh, God, the things I would do to Dan Campbell. No, our Lions are at 4-1. They're looking unstoppable. I am a little hesitant because we haven't played anybody great, but it is the NFL. Everybody's great. But I will kick it off to you guys. The next 4 games, we have a pretty solid gauntlet of, I would say, all top half NFL teams. What are your guys' take? I mean, I said if we go 4-0, 3-1, I'm feeling pretty crazy. What's your guys' take?
Go ahead, Tate.
I think they gotta beat the Bucks. I don't think the Bucks are that great. They're in a terrible division. They're gonna end up being, who knows, that whoever gets out of the South, NFC South is gonna be lucky to even be in the playoffs. At the Ravens, they'll be tough. And then home against the Raiders and Chargers, I think those are both very winnable games. So at worst 2-2, but they should be 3-1 out of those 4, I would say.
Yeah, I think they'll probably drop one of those games too. What's really interesting is I've never rooted for a good Lions team, so I'm used to the Lions playing at 1:00 on Sunday, And they're playing. They have I know the Bucks game just got moved to prime time on Sunday. It's at 4:25. The Ravens is a 1 o'clock start.
Raiders is Monday Night Football,
Raiders
baby.
on Monday night, and then they play the Chargers on a Sunday afternoon game too. The Chargers don't have Mike Williams at wideout, which helps. I think I'd probably go all in on 3-1. I think they'll drop one of those games. But I don't know which one. They're all winnable, but they're also all losable. So it's going to be interesting. But Lions are hot right now.
I think the Ravens defense probably is the toughest matchup out of the next month ahead in terms of either scheme against scheme or just individual matchups. I think Harbaugh's defense is probably the toughest thing that Ben Johnson is going to face so far this year.
We also struggle versus scrambling quarterbacks. Gino kind of picked us apart with his legs. I do hope we make some adjustments we don't necessarily need to spy, but we just got to maintain our rush lanes internally. That killed us versus Gino. You get the high rush from Aiden, and then your DNs or your D tackles vacate the inside, and then you're just SOL. So it'll be interesting. I think we have to get somebody at the trade deadline. We have to buy because we have a very good team. We're playing on depth right now. We need a defensive piece, bad. I think what we have is good. I think it can win. We lose one more piece, and who's playing corner or DB?
The trade deadline is on Halloween. It's October 31st. So if we're gonna get somebody, it's gonna be either for that Raiders game or the Chargers game.
So Surtain or Max Crosby, they've been flirting with, wants to leave.
I'm kind of gonna go the opposite way here and think. I mean, the biggest hole is obviously defensively, but if Jamison Williams isn't that dude, and we're not going to know that until probably the end of this year, but I almost would like to see them go out and get a Mike Evans type or like a Hopkins type, but both those teams aren't bad enough to be in that trading perspective right now. So I don't know. It's going to be tough to pick up a piece. I hope they do, though.
Mike Evans is going to have his interview against the Lions this week.
Yeah, that's true.
So, Kory, I was thinking about your offline question you had. Who could beat up Dan Campbell of all the other NFL coaches? I have my answer. DeMeco Ryans, the head coach of the Texans.
Oh, Ryans is a good one. Vrabel's a good one. Vrabel might be able to.
Vrabel might be a good one.
Who do you got, Vince?
Mike Tomlin.
Okay. No. I was gonna go with Tomlin or Andy Reid. Just sit on him.
I can see Tomlin in a gangster way. Tomlin would hire that shit out and you would never know about it.
So I have a little self brag here. I was texting a good friend Goo, friend of the pod. We are not in the same fantasy league together, so we always ask each other about transactions in fantasy football. And he was talking about Travis Kelce and dating Taylor Swift and how he's in Pfizer commercials. We call him Pfizer boy. And I said, the way things are going, he's probably going to get hurt. And what happened on Sunday, he got hurt. I don't know the severity of his injury, but I definitely called that. So I'm going to take credit for it.
I would like Goo to publicly apologize to me via social media of some sort about Aleem McNeil not being very good. So there's my take.
Well, if he's listening, we'll have to see. Kory, is that your cat behind you?
Yeah, he's sleeping. No, it'll be interesting. The Lions, I think, Vince, you hit it on the head. This is the most proud we've ever been of a Lions team.
In the 30 plus years we've been alive, we've never been proud or excited, at least that we can remember. I mean, obviously the Barry Sanders era, we were little kids, babies, so it's kind of hard to remember that. So at least in our teenage to adult lives, we have not really had a lot of Lions teams to be proud of. There was a couple in the Calvin Johnson, Matt Stafford area,
yeah, I was going to say
not even to this extent. I mean, the coaching staff, top to bottom, it's like a whole nother vibe, mindset, attitude. I love it. Dan Campbell just sets the tone, and I'm bought in. I was bought in from day one with Dan Campbell. Day one. I love that guy.
But this 4-game stretch is
It'll make or
detrimental
break
to-
the season. I think it
Yeah,
makes or breaks the season because they definitely should sweep the division. They have no business losing a divisional game.
They're saying the Packers are going to tank the rest of the year. They were just talking about
The division's
or
awful.
no, sorry, not the Packers, the Vikings. They're talking about potentially trading Cousins. I read a thing today.
The division's awful. There's no excuse for the Lions not sweeping and winning the division. No excuse.
Not only is the North terrible, but the Lions' schedule is pretty soft after November 12th. They have home against the Bears, home against the Packers, at the Saints, at the Bears, home against
the Broncos, who are horrible. At the
Dallas.
Cowboys, at Dallas will be tough. That's one I could see them dropping as well.
At Dallas and at Saints are probably the only two games that they won't be favored in.
If we get out of this 4-game stretch, at 3-1, say, or 2-2, we may only lose 4 games.
I think 13-4 is a very likely possibility with how they're playing. If they can go 2-2 in that stretch, yeah,
absolutely,
that is unbelievable.
To say that is unreal. That's actually a legitimate possibility for the Lions is just mind blowing.
With the injuries we've had.
SOL, man, anything can happen.
That's true.
Kory wearing his Lions gear.
We've been beat up.
When the Lions were smacking the Packers the other night, I went on NFL Shop and bought two articles of Lions apparel. All I have is a sweatshirt.
There you go.
I bought a shirt last Sunday, the Dan Campbell doing this shirt.
Nice.
I love it.
Love it.
All right, gentlemen, we want to wrap things up here with our recommendation fact of the week. I think Tate said he has a fact.
Yeah, do the fact.
Oh, actually, one more thing I want to share really quick on professional football. We need to talk about this. I just at least bring it up because I think we've talked about the Michigan Panthers a lot, so this is worth mentioning. Did you guys see the USFL and XFL announce they are merging?
Yes.
So I think that's worth just mentioning here really quick. I think it'll be interesting to see next spring what that looks like. There's not a lot of details right now. Fox owns the USFL. The Rock owns the XFL, majority owners. So apparently they've announced that with this merger, they're going to try to franchise the teams, like get some more owners, more investment, more investors and buyers. Both leagues survived. USFL made it through 2 seasons, I think, and XFL had 1 season. And I don't know if I call them successful. They didn't thrive, but they made it. So it'd be really cool to see if a lot of money gets poured into a true developmental league for the NFL. But I guess we'll see what happens. TBD on that.
That's a good sign for sure.
So just thought that was worth mentioning. But anyway,
Kaepernick too.
He's playing in it.
They offered him a contract or offered him to come.
Oh yeah, didn't he say he wanted like for an XFL team that he wanted like $1 million contract or something crazy to play for an XFL team? I thought something crazy like that.
Who knows?
Anyway, Tate, give us your fact.
All right, fact of the week. Jim Harbaugh has more career rushing yards than Bo Jackson.
Oh, yeah.
I
782 yards for Harbaugh. For Bo. 2,787 yards for Harbaugh. 5 more rushing yards than arguably one of the greatest running backs of all time, albeit a shortened season or shortened career because of injuries. But just pretty wild stat to think.
I looked that up when I read it on Twitter. I went and fact checked it. I was like, "Holy shit!"
It's true. It's true. That is crazy. That is wild. All right, Kory, are you doing the recommendation?
Yes. So, as these guys know, not a lot of people know, my wife and I recently had our basement finished into a man cave, bathroom, sports bar-esque entertainment area.
Hell yeah.
And we worked with a local contractor, younger guy, our age, early 30s, single guy working too. He doesn't even have a crew. It's literally just him. Andy Zaplotel, Zaps Interior Remodeling. Andy did an amazing job, super professional, great rates, showed up every day, great communication, does some awesome work. So I'll post some stuff to our socials, but I just wanted to give Andy a shout out and his business. If you're on this west side of Michigan, needs somebody to come in. I mean, he does everything from bathrooms to full basements, kitchens, really you name it, Andy will do it. But great guy, small business, supportive of him. If you need something done, So I will post his socials. I will also post a little video of the basement since it is finished. Andy did pretty much all of our framing. He did the bathroom. He did all of our drywall. We did some of the other things, like, I don't know, the bar top and the cabinetry and the flooring and the painting and whatnot. But Andy did a lot of the big stuff that you want to look good. If not, it'll look like crap. So, Zap's Interior Remodeling on the west side of the state. Hit him up. I will post his socials on our Instagram page.
Very cool. Very cool. All right.
ZAPP?
Oh, sorry. What?
ZAPP? Zaps? ZAPPS?
ZAPS. Zaps. His Instagram is AndyZap1.
Check it out. Get your basement remodeled like Bears. His is pretty sweet. I liked it.
I like it.
All right. And with that, I think we're going to wrap things up here for episode 48 of the podcast. Thank you for listening, watching, following along. Please make sure if you don't already follow us, check us out on Twitter at GLSFBall, Instagram, Great Lakes State Football. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel to check out the videos. Give them a like, share them out. Great Lakes State Football. You can check us out on Apple and Spotify. If you want to continue to listen to the audio version only, you can subscribe to Great Lakes State Football there to get all the episodes when they come out. And then make sure that you check out our link. You can find it in the description of the audio or video version episodes of the podcast to NeuroPeak Pro and their Intel belt, where you can get 20% off an Intel belt with our special code GLSFB. I'm Vince, Kory, Brett, and Tate. Great Lakes State Football, episode 48. Go Lions.
Dan Campbell is zaddy.